Hey guys, it's Jared from Jared's View. Today we're going to go over some popular political ideologies across the world. I found a cool little article that explains it in one of the easier fashions I've ever come across. And as a person that went to school to become a teacher, and I hope to one day become a professor, I'd like to go over this and try to go piece by piece to what these actually mean. Because I see in the world, especially in the Western world, where we're having a little bit of an identity crisis. And in this, if we understand what these words mean and these ideologies are just a little bit better, but on the easiest scale, I think a lot of times we get wrapped in what do they stand for, and things change over time. So the first one, nationalism. What do people think of when they think of nationalism? They typically think of dictatorships. They think of people putting their country first and not worrying about other cultures. You're trying to hold your identity, your culture, and your independence should come first, right? So, for example, this is a definition I went with: a belief that your own nation's identity, culture, and independence should come first. People feel strong pride and loyalty to their country, wanting to stay strong. Now, is there anything wrong with that? If we look at the entire population of the world, not just the Western nations, this is a very common viewpoint. And in certain countries, you're going to just see that is their culture and it's not going to change. As we start to move on further and further, if we move back in history and we see the issues and how they came about, is it wrong that a country should keep to themselves? Is it wrong that a country should keep their culture? I think if we were to look back in time and you see some cultures committed cannibalism, human sacrifice. I think that we can't say with certainty that some cultures are above other cultures. To say that for nowadays, it's a sick topic. So we're going to try to avoid that as much as we can. So here's the next one. This is a major one that comes into conversations a lot, especially as I'm jumping back into this world, as you guys know, from being out of it for the last 10 years. Communism is something tried over and over again since the early 1900s. It started to obviously gain momentum. Karl Marx, Engels writing their manifesto, and eventually going to been taken over and become the Soviet Union. When you think of communism, the first country you think of is the Soviet Union. You think of Lenin, you think of Stalin. These are also dictators. We have to take into consideration that communism does and could potentially lead to dictatorship, where the people that want to be in control eventually are, and they don't like the power at B. And with the power at B, they also end up becoming the same oppressors that they were going against. Communism is a classless, stateless society where all property is shared, aiming to abolish private ownership and eliminate exploitation. I would say the most controversial one on this list is going to be communism. This is what communism is as a very basic definition: a classless, stateless society where all property is shared, aiming to abolish private ownership and eliminate exploitation. Right? Give the power to the man, the common man, the worker. We all share it. The ideas itself always do sound good. And trust me, as a person that has maybe a pessimistic view, I believe realistic view of the world, this would be amazing. And some very popular podcasters, stating names, fight for this, which is amazing. Ultimately, what we have seen is this typically does not work. By typically, it has not worked in society yet. It replaces a society of a ruling class with a society of oligarchs and people that control everything in the country. And it leads to dictatorship, and it leads, honestly, so far it's just led to death. And it's very sad. The idea itself, just like a lot of people, I believe, have great ideas and ideas that they wish or that I wish would work, but then they don't in practice. And for many reasons, we'll go into the human nature about this at a different time. But right now, this is one that gets brought up a lot. And so far, we have not made it work as humans. And I don't know if it's worth another try. I think the best bet is to put a lot of these together and see if we can make it work as a combination. But that's not really how humans have worked so far. Conservatism: keep what works, respect tradition, and change slowly to avoid chaos. That's a hard one to not argue with. That's a society that knows who they are, they stand by who they are. And I know in today's world that we talk about, well, what did that society do in the past? Well, what have they done? Whether we want to pick England, the US, there's been a lot of horrible things in human history. I don't know why we can't make peace with that. We cannot change the past. We could focus on the present to potentially fix the future, but we can't change the past. And to think that we're above any of it as humans, we're greedy. Humans put themselves first, and to a point, there's nothing wrong with that. But then to fake it becomes the issue that I would have. Hypocrisy is probably worse than just being true and truthful, and it's maybe not seen that way in our society, which is kind of dark. If people were honest and truthful with what their intentions were, they would never get them anywhere. So we're taught to lie at a young age, and over the course of your life, this becomes a thing. And we talked about it earlier. What is the cost of lies? Eventually, it will catch up to us, and I believe truly that we are starting to see that. We're seeing the cracks in the system across the world, and this one specifically, if you were to ask the common, let's use the common left in America, right? Right now, if I were to say this to them, Who do you have more in common with, right? This kind of worldview, or the MAGA movement, it would be a very similar movement, very similar ideas, but by attaching the words to it, they would become very upset and not believe in it at all. And I think that the best way to do this are short little ways of adapting to society, right? You can't expect everybody to be on board right away for every movement and not be able to ask questions. That's not how societies work. And we'll go on to the next one. Another big one, and the one the US is run on, is capitalism. Business and property belong to private people, not the government. Price and wages decided mostly by buying and selling. The markets run everything. Is what's worth more, what's worth less. It can change. It could change quickly. Money could change hands quickly. People hate on this. What I've seen across is, as a person I've mentioned this many times, and I will continue to mention this, that was out of this world and out of politics for a long time. You say, Jared, you're not out of this world. You're just living in Europe, and life is not a completely different place. And you're right, 100%. Different continent, understand, but still Western world. But right now, we have to be honest. It's all about your algorithm. It's all about what you're seeing every day. That's why propaganda is as strong as it is. That's why perception of things is so important. That's why taking the time to, people get mad, do your own research, Google the other things. If an answer comes up that you don't quite like, it doesn't mean it's wrong. It still means you have to look into it a little bit further. And if you come out with an answer that's different than what you thought ahead of time, you have to be willing to change and adapt. Capitalism, so far in any societies we have seen, is a system that gives people best opportunity to rise from the bottom to the top. And I don't make the rules. That's just the way it is. If you have a chance to have a middle class, which seems to create the strongest societies, this seems to be the best way. Is it perfect? No, absolutely not. I don't know if I'm allowed to curse on this, but fuck no, it's not. But it's the closest thing we've come, and you have to give people the chance to do their own thing. You can't have a specific religion control everything. It doesn't work that way. This gives you, so far, what I could see the most freedom. Next is anarchism, and advocates a stateless society organized through voluntary cooperation and self-managed communities. Once again, incredible idea, right? People trusting each other, no matter what. But then there's no rules. And as we have seen over and over again, humans do not work this way. We need guardrails for everything. I wish we didn't. I wish that we could just work together as society, work as neighbors. In America, in the Western world, but let's use America specifically, that's where I'm living. We live in a society that has the most cultures put together in the history of the world. And we make this work. And we make this work not just good enough, but it's great. It's very safe. Everybody wants to point out the dangers, right? The cities, every city has those dangers. Everybody wants to point out where it doesn't work. They bring up slavery. Of course, that's a stain on a country. They bring up Jim Crow laws. Also, major stain. But did things get better? That's the question we have to ask ourselves. Did things progress? If you always go back in history and you compare it, the time from then to the time now, everybody's a hero. Let me tell you, everybody I know would have been Schindler during World War II. But that's not the case. And even that, people should probably look into Schindler a little bit more. Look into the history. This not just the history that's told, but the truth. That's what we're missing. We're missing the truth. So we can come to that middle ground where we will never be able to fix our society, and it will just continue to go down. Socialism, one that is brought up all the time, all over the internet, all the time. They put it on things that aren't even socialist. And also the conversation back and forth. Well, Nazis was the National Socialist German Workers' Party. Yes, that's exactly what Nazism stands for in German. I get that. But here's what it is: an economic political system where the means of production, factories, resources, for example, are collectively owned or regulated to reduce inequality and provide for all. So many of these ideologies have the interests of the people at hand, but it's how they eventually are run. You have to have some versions of socialism. We have it now. The police, the fire departments, the military. We use this. But it can't only be socialism. You use, people say, well, the Nordic countries do it. Yes, you were right. There's many countries in Europe do this, and it is work. Switzerland's another great example for it. Hey, healthcare is much more affordable. Then my friends would ask me, but don't you have to wait months to go to the doctor? Certain countries in the Western world that have this, you do. No, they use Canada as an example for this. This is real. This is a problem. But I don't believe it's a problem of just the actual system itself, but the people running it. Underestimate how greedy humans actually are. And the entire system across the world could be fraudulent and fake. Everybody is stealing anything they can. Any chance people get, they steal. If you come across a society where people all work together all the time and it's running and working, consider yourself lucky. And we're getting as close as we can in the Western world to societies like this. People talk about multiculturalism, and this leads to immigration conversation we're not going to have today, but it's is a conversation that we should have. And in the States, having this many cultures and still being able to contain one and use it, but then you still have people that hate on it or degrade it or say it doesn't work or I guess bring up the past. This doesn't, none of these ideas actually help. Just I ask you what you wanted for Christmas and you just gave me a list of everything you don't want. You have not helped me at all in what you do want. And that's the society we're living in right now. Everybody is telling everybody else what doesn't work and why. Well, let's put together things that do work. And if we have to take several different things, several different ideologies, and put it together, let's try that and look at things honestly. Let's go to the next one. Liberalism focuses on personal freedom. People can speak, trade, believe, and own property as they like, as long as they don't harm others. Let people be free. Once again, another beautiful ideology. One that probably in our past, in our great past, was something that probably worked for humans. Right? If you leave me alone, I leave you alone, and it's a beautiful thing. Uh, then you have a situation we start to talk about borders. We start to talk about fairness. We start to talk about who can buy, who can sell. It just goes down the rabbit hole. Don't have a good idea for this. These ideas I'm tossing out to hope to help educate the next generation or any that wants to listen about what these actual ideologies are and how we can use them better. Leaving people alone and having the freedom to know that you don't have to interact or be respected by everybody else is an eye-opening experience as long as you don't harm others, as long as you do not make their lives worse or oppress them or hurt them. If you leave them alone, that's also fine. I think that's the missing point that we're running into a lot in our current world is it is okay to not know everybody, not like everybody, and not interact with everybody. Fascism. If I could narrow it down to what I have seen on the internet in this small little sample size of what I've been around, the word fascism is thrown out in way too many videos. If you think of fascism, again, we think of Mussolini, you think of Hitler, people compare it to Donald Trump, then people compare to what woke left does now. This back and forth does not work. An authoritative, ultranationalist ideology promoting dictatorial power, centralized control, and suppression of dissent. One leader, one nation, total control, top to bottom. I don't care if you're on the left. I don't care if you're on the right. A lot of these ideologies get put into those. Oh, this is a left wing ideology. This is a right wing ideology. Awesome. How does it work at the end? What does it look like when it's being run? That's what it is. You have total control of everything. Doesn't I don't care what side you're on. If I cannot say a certain thing without losing my job, without losing my friends, with maybe losing family. If you lose all these things because of your ideology and what you believe in without actually forcing it on the others, we have a problem. Right? It should be based off of freedom. Imperialism, a policy of practice when a powerful country extends control over its weaker regions, nations, politically, economically, or militarily. Control the weak. This is something I'd like to delve into a little bit further for, as compared to all the other ideologies, especially when we talk about the Americas. We talk about colonization before when European nations started to come here. We could go further back, but let's start right there. To say that the nations here prior to the Europeans coming here didn't have a system probably very similar to this, we'd probably be losing something historical if we were missing that. Let's use Cortez coming over and taking over the Aztec Empire. He was able to get nations and peoples all around the Aztec Empire to work with him. And I don't think he was getting that because they trusted, as we would see the white man, Spanish, I don't know how everybody wants to call it nowadays. I think they probably wanted to help him because they saw a chance to take over people that were oppressing them. They were fighting back and not realizing that divide and conquer is one of the oldest human strategies there is. It has worked many times. It is currently working in the world now. This system is one of the best systems to take over any country, any region, any people. And whether you work with one to hurt the other and then take over the one you work with, this is a common practice. I would suggest people would look up the history of the Middle East, the history of the rise of Islam in the Middle East. It's a very interesting history and how the religion itself spread and how we portray it now are two vastly different things. And I think it's something to really look into and something that the more you understand about regions and peoples and where they come from and the history of it and understanding that history is it's not pretty and if it doesn't follow your narrative or what you believe it's still okay, it's still history, but once again until we can all across the world agree on what is historical fact or not, none of these things will matter. So until people Let's go with people protesting. I know common when it was coming here. Nobody's illegal on stolen land. I get it. Until we can have a conversation about all the countries across the world and everybody's working together. Something as simple. If I want to have a conversation about what's going on in the Middle East right now, Israel, Palestine, the conversation really ends like, well, I don't believe in genocide. Awesome. Most people don't. Most people, even the people that would be doing different genocides in history, see themselves as the good guys. So it kills an argument. So then you can't even have a factual based conversation. And this is something I think that we should look into also a little bit more as a society. Colonialism. Oh my God. History books in the States. This is we talk about all the time, and it's only get really put onto one group of people, and that kind of can be also um, all nations, all peoples, everywhere being colonized left and right. Some are slaves, some are not slaves, and this has just been happening all throughout human history. So if we're gonna have a conversation, I would like to know prior to if I was having a debate with somebody, I would ask them first, what time frame do we want to work in? What year do we want to start? To then see if we can move things forward. Because if I don't have time and we have an argument and it goes back and we keep going, we're not going anywhere. If we talk about people talk about Zionism, okay, so what that is, the Jewish people came into Palestine, took it over, became a country, and oppressed all the other people on that land. That is not a very nuanced way of looking at things. That is, if you're on one side, we believe nobody is illegal on stolen land, and you believe that all people should be allowed to move anywhere, no borders, immigration is our friend. And at the same time, you're very, very angry that the Jews went back to their homeland. And I've seen arguments where people will use the Canaanites. And well, they took over the land from them. I think to myself, then where does it begin? Whose land was it to begin with? And if everything is under your own personal narrative, there's good guys and there's bad guys. If Christianity did all this and Islam did all this, the Jews did all this, then where are we supposed to go? Then ultimately we would cut out the middleman for debates, and it'd be quicker if the person said, I don't like this, this, and this. We can at least move on, or at least we can find some kind of middle ground. But we'll never be able to find middle ground if we cannot talk through all this and all historical things with honesty. And that is my tip of the day. This is just these were the most common forms of government and some of the most common forms of ideology. They do not work. That's a quick way of saying it. We have to put them all together to make it work. Capitalism is the closest thing that we've ever come to a society that ideology that can build people up from nothing. Is it perfect? No. Is anything in human nature perfect? No. But we're also not good at compromising. We're not good at finding the middle ground. I mean, look in the States alone. Every 4 years, we upend whatever the last president did. Maybe the last 8 years. How can you build a system where every 4 years, the entire administration changes? The entire goal of the country changes? Why can we not set out a goal as a nation and work towards that goal? Okay, what it is. Okay, but this back and forth is just utter nonsense. And social media and the internet at large is dividing people in a way that will eventually become dangerous. It might not be now. We might see it now. I think people now almost enjoy it. They enjoy the division. They in chaos. We watch reality TV shows for this reason. Then we have the internet's just a little bit bigger version of reality TV show. Everybody is the main character. This does not work over time. You have to have a society functioning, working together. Society doesn't work together for a common goal, common purpose. Eventually, that society and that culture will break down. And we have to start identifying earlier what some goals of some groups could be. And if they're not, if they don't have the greater, if certain groups don't have the greater good at hand, then what are they trying to work towards? Right? It's every feeling people have is us versus them. Your friend group is us versus them. Everybody that goes out and then to act like they don't is it's kind of mind blowing. So I've seen different videos, different questions people will put to random people on the street, and some of them with me kind of bothered me. They would ask random people on the street, who you closer, MAGA or Islamist extremist? And Americans in Western world would talk about Islamist extremist. And I think, no, that they're not even close to the same. But people underestimate and don't understand what extreme religion is and what its goal is. To put a name onto it and then be called racist, Islamophobic, any number of these things. It doesn't work that way. If I was a random cult and I laid out the list of those cults and every other group of people here related to whatever religion it was, all peaceful, all believed in the same thing. But this specific cult doesn't matter what their actual races believe in it, then it also cannot be hate. If a group of people do not like you for a specific reason, and they actively explain that if you don't believe in this, you don't deserve to live, it doesn't make you any more hateful or any phobic or anything of this nature to be scared of that group. And that's, I think we're in trouble as a society. And if if the random everyday, let's call it liberal, right? I'm not saying woke, I'm not degrading any of the people. The random person on the left can feel and not feel safe around the random everyday Republican. And some of the videos I've seen are very hateful fight currently. Then how could they not see that on the other side of the coin, a group of people could also hate them and want to do them damage? And that's what I think that we're having trouble understanding as a society right now. Until we can take a step back and start to look at things honestly, we're gonna be in a lot of trouble. I would like to discuss this more with anybody that would like to talk about it. Please like, comment, subscribe, and let's have a conversation.